In Alabama, you can legally own a flamethrower, but you know what you can't do? Carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket on a Sunday. I'm not kidding, that's an actual law. And that's just the beginning of this madness. America is supposed to be the land of the free, right? Well, someone forgot to tell the lawmakers in these states because across the country, there are hundreds of laws that make absolutely zero sense. We're talking about bans so weird, so random, that you'll question how they even became laws in the first place. Today, we're going through 50 of the most insane, most ridiculous bans that actually exist in the United States. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll wonder what was going through these lawmakers' heads. Here's the thing about laws. They're supposed to protect us, keep society running smoothly, make sure people aren't hurting each other. But somewhere along the way, something went seriously wrong. Because instead of focusing on actual problems, lawmakers decided to ban things like singing in swimsuits, wrestling bears, and yes, even dictating what you can do with your ice cream cone. The real problem here is that these laws are still on the books. Nobody bothered to remove them. They're just sitting there waiting for some unlucky person to accidentally break them. So let's dive into this mess and see just how weird things can get. Let's start with some food-related bans because apparently what you eat and how you eat it is a massive concern for lawmakers. In Georgia, you cannot eat fried chicken with a fork. Seriously. The city of Gainesville, which calls itself the chicken capital of the world, made this a law back in 1961. They say it's about preserving tradition, but come on, if I want to eat my chicken with a fork, a spoon, or chopsticks, that should be my choice. But no, in Georgia, you better use your hands or you're technically breaking the law. The funny thing is, this law was actually created as a publicity stunt to promote Gainesville as a tourist destination. But once it was on the books, it stayed there. And now, decades later, people still talk about it. There was even a case where a tourist was jokingly arrested for eating chicken with a fork, though the charges were obviously dropped. But the fact that it happened at all shows how seriously some people take these ridiculous laws. Moving over to Kansas, there's a law that says you can't serve wine in teacups. Why? Nobody knows. Maybe someone had a really bad experience at a tea party. Maybe they thought it was too classy. Whatever the reason, if you're in Kansas and you want wine, it better be in a proper wine glass or you're out of luck. This law probably dates back to Prohibition times when people were getting creative about hiding alcohol. Teacups were a popular choice because they looked innocent. So lawmakers decided to crack down on this sneaky behavior. But Prohibition ended almost 100 years ago and the law is still there. So if you're having a fancy tea party in Kansas and you want to serve wine, you better bring proper glasses. Now let's talk about ice cream. Because apparently ice cream is a huge problem in America. In New York, you can't walk around with an ice cream cone in your pocket on Sundays. Wait, it gets better. This law exists because back in the day, horse thieves would put ice cream in their pockets to lure horses away from their owners. So instead of just banning horse theft, which was already illegal, they decided to ban ice cream in pockets. Makes total sense. The logic here is that horses love sweet things, and if you had ice cream melting in your pocket, a horse would follow you anywhere. So horse thieves would use this trick to steal horses without actually having to grab them. The horse would just follow them home. But here's the thing, we don't have a horse theft problem anymore. Cars kind of replaced horses as the main mode of transportation. So this law is completely outdated, but it's still on the books. And if you thought that was weird, in Oregon, you can't eat ice cream on Sundays, just flat out banned. I guess Sundays are sacred, and ice cream is somehow offensive to that sacredness. This is one of those old religious laws that was meant to keep people focused on church and family instead of worldly pleasures. But even the most religious people today would probably agree that eating ice cream isn't a sin. Yet the law remains. So technically, if you're in Oregon on a Sunday and you're craving ice cream, you're supposed to wait until midnight. Or just cross the state line. Either way, it's ridiculous. In Alabama, there's another food law that's just as strange. You can't have more than one vibrator in your house. Wait, no, wrong law. Let me get back to food. In Alabama, you can't sprinkle salt on railroad tracks. This might sound random, but there's actually a reason for it. Salt can damage the metal on railroad tracks, which could potentially cause accidents. So this law was probably made to protect the railways. But the way it's written is so specific that it just sounds weird. Like, you can sprinkle salt anywhere else you want. Your driveway, your sidewalk, your neighbor's car. But the second you sprinkle it on railroad tracks, you're a criminal. Let's move on to clothing and appearance laws, because what you wear is apparently everyone's business. In Florida, unmarried women cannot parachute on Sundays. If you're married, go ahead, jump out of that plane. But if you're single, you better wait until Monday. I have no idea what the logic is here. Maybe they thought unmarried women parachuting on Sundays would cause some kind of moral panic. Maybe they thought it was too exciting for single women to handle. Or maybe, just maybe, some lawmaker had a daughter who wanted to go skydiving on a Sunday and he said no, so he made it illegal for everyone. That's the kind of petty lawmaking that could totally happen. And the fact that married women are allowed to parachute makes it even weirder. Like, once you have a husband, suddenly you're responsible enough to handle a parachute on a Sunday. The whole thing is absurd. In Alabama, it's illegal to wear a fake mustache in church if it causes laughter. So you can wear a real mustache, that's fine. But if you glue on a fake one and people start laughing, you're breaking the law. Who enforces this? Is there a mustache police officer standing at the church entrance checking for authenticity? And how do they determine if the laughter was caused by the mustache or something else? Maybe someone told a joke. Maybe someone tripped. But no, if you have a fake mustache and people laugh, you're going to jail. This law was probably created because someone pulled a prank during a church service and the pastor got mad. So instead of just kicking that person out, they made it illegal for everyone. That's how these things usually work. Kentucky has a law that says women cannot appear in a bathing suit on a highway unless they're escorted by at least 2 police officers or carrying a club. This law is so specific that it raises more questions than answers. Why 2 officers? Why not 1? Why not 3? And why a club? What kind of club? A baseball bat? A golf club? A nightclub? Okay, probably not a nightclub. But seriously, who wrote this law and what were they thinking? The most likely explanation is that this was meant to prevent women from walking along highways in swimsuits, which was apparently a problem at some point. Maybe there were women trying to hitchhike in swimsuits, and lawmakers thought that was inappropriate. So they made this weirdly specific law to stop it. But instead of just saying women can't wear swimsuits on highways, they added these bizarre exceptions. Because apparently if you have 2 cops with you, a swimsuit is totally fine. And while we're talking about swimsuits, in Florida, it's illegal to sing in a public place while wearing a swimsuit. So if you're at the beach enjoying the sun and you feel like singing, you better change into regular clothes first. Otherwise, you're a criminal. This is another one of those laws that was probably meant to prevent disturbing the peace. Maybe there were performers singing on beaches and annoying tourists. Maybe someone was singing really badly and people complained. So instead of just enforcing noise ordinances, they made it specifically illegal to sing in a swimsuit. Because apparently singing in regular clothes is fine, but a swimsuit makes it a crime. Now let's get into animal-related bans. Because apparently people were doing some really strange things with animals. In Alabama, it's illegal to wrestle a bear. Now, on the surface, this seems reasonable. You probably shouldn't wrestle bears. But the fact that they had to make it a law means people were actually doing this. There were enough bear wrestling incidents that lawmakers sat down and said, "We need to stop this." And they weren't wrong. Bear wrestling was actually a popular form of entertainment in the South. Traveling circuses would bring bears, and people would pay to watch someone wrestle them. Sometimes audience members would even try to wrestle the bears themselves. It was dangerous, it was cruel to the bears, and it needed to stop. So Alabama made it illegal, but the law is written in such a simple way, no bear wrestling, that it just sounds funny now. Like, did someone actually wake up one day and think, you know what sounds fun? Wrestling a bear. In Arizona, you can't let your donkey sleep in a bathtub. Again, very specific. Someone's donkey must have fallen asleep in a bathtub, and it caused such a problem that they made it illegal. I'm imagining a farmer finding his donkey snoozing in the tub and calling the police. But what was the actual problem? Was the donkey taking too long? Was it using all the hot water? Did it refuse to get out? We'll never know the full story, but it must have been serious enough to warrant a law. This is one of those cases where you really wish you could go back in time and ask, what happened here? What series of events led to this law being created? Because there's definitely a story behind it, and it's probably hilarious. California has a law that says animals cannot mate within 1,500 feet of a school or place of worship. I don't even know how you'd enforce this. Are there animal relationship police officers measuring distances? Do the animals know about this law? And what do you do if you see 2 animals getting romantic near a church? Do you call the cops? Do you try to separate them yourself? This law was probably meant to protect children from seeing animals mate, which is understandable. But the way it's written is so ridiculous that it just doesn't work. Animals don't understand property boundaries. They don't know where schools and churches are. They're just living their lives. So this law is basically unenforceable, but it's still on the books. In Florida, if you tie an elephant to a parking meter, you have to pay the same parking fee as you would for a vehicle. So elephants are treated like cars. That's the law. Now, this one actually makes some sense in a weird way. If you're taking up a parking space with your elephant, you should probably pay for it. But the fact that this law exists means someone actually tried to park an elephant without paying. There was a situation where someone tied an elephant to a parking meter and refused to pay, and the city had to make a law about it. Florida used to have a lot of circuses and traveling shows, so elephants weren't uncommon. But still, the image of someone arguing with a parking enforcement officer about whether their elephant counts as a vehicle is pretty funny. Speaking of animals and vehicles, in Tennessee it's illegal to drive a car while you're asleep. Now, this seems obvious, but apparently it needed to be written down. Were people actually sleep driving so much that this became necessary? The answer is yes, kind of. Sleepwalking is a real condition, and there have been cases of people getting into their cars while sleepwalking and driving. It's incredibly dangerous, and it needed to be illegal. But the way the law is written makes it sound like people were just casually deciding to take naps behind the wheel. Like, I'm tired, but I also need to get to work, so I'll just do both at the same time. Obviously, that's not how it works, but the law is still funny. Let's talk about some bans related to activities and entertainment, because fun is apparently very regulated in America. In Connecticut, a pickle must bounce to be considered an officially valid pickle. There's actually a pickle test. If your pickle doesn't bounce, it's not legally a pickle. I'm not making this up. Someone decided that bounceability is the defining characteristic of a pickle. This law was created during World War II, when there was a problem with pickle fraud. Yes, pickle fraud was a real thing. Some sellers were selling cucumbers that weren't properly pickled, and people were getting sick. So the state decided that a properly pickled cucumber should be firm enough to bounce. If it didn't bounce, it wasn't properly pickled, and you couldn't sell it as a pickle. The bounce test became the official standard, and it's still the law today, so if you're selling pickles in Connecticut, you better make sure they bounce. In Oklahoma, you can't make ugly faces at a dog. If you do, you can be fined or jailed. So if you're having a bad day and you scowl at a dog, you're technically a criminal. The dog probably doesn't care, but the law does. This is one of those laws that seems like it was made as a joke but somehow became real. Maybe a lawmaker was mad at their neighbor for teasing their dog. Maybe there was a case of someone genuinely harassing a dog by making faces at it. Whatever the reason, the law exists, and technically you can be arrested for it. Good luck proving in court that someone was making an ugly face, though. In North Carolina, it's illegal to sing off-key. So if you're not a great singer, you better keep your mouth shut or risk breaking the law. I wonder how many people have been arrested for bad karaoke performances. This law was probably meant to prevent noise disturbances, but the way it's written is too specific. Singing off-key isn't the same as being loud or disturbing the peace, it's just being bad at singing. And who decides what counts as off-key? Are there official pitch police officers walking around with tuning forks? This is one of those laws that could never be enforced in a fair way, but it's still technically illegal. Arizona says you can't hunt camels. Now, there aren't a lot of camels in Arizona, but apparently at some point, there were enough that hunting them became a problem. The US Army actually imported camels in the 1800s to use in the desert, and when that experiment failed, they just released them into the wild. So for a while, there were wild camels roaming around Arizona. Some people started hunting them, and the state decided to make it illegal. The camel population eventually died out, but the law remained. So today, even though there are no wild camels in Arizona, it's still illegal to hunt them, just in case, I guess. In Maryland, it's illegal to take a lion to the movies. So if you have a pet lion and you want to catch the latest blockbuster, tough luck. You'll have to watch it at home. I'm imagining someone trying to buy a ticket for their lion and being told no. This law probably exists because of traveling circuses and exotic animal shows. In the old days, people would bring their performing animals everywhere, including movie theaters. And at some point, someone brought a lion to a movie theater in Maryland, and it caused a problem, so they banned it. But the way the law is written makes it sound like having a pet lion is a normal thing, and the only issue is bringing it to the movies. Let's get into some property and home-related laws, because what you do in your own house is apparently not entirely your business. In California, it's illegal to set a mousetrap without a hunting license. So if you have mice in your house, you better go get licensed before you deal with them, because apparently catching mice is considered hunting. This law is probably a technicality based on how hunting is defined in California. According to state law, hunting includes trapping wild animals. Mice are technically wild animals, even if they're in your house. So technically, you need a hunting license to trap them. Of course, nobody actually enforces this law. Nobody is going around checking if people have licenses for their mouse traps. But it's still on the books, which makes it technically illegal to catch mice without a license. In Massachusetts, it's illegal to put tomatoes in clam chowder. Now, this isn't just a preference, it's an actual law. If you make Manhattan clam chowder in Massachusetts, you're breaking the law. They take their New England clam chowder very seriously. This law was proposed in 1939 by a Massachusetts lawmaker who was tired of people putting tomatoes in clam chowder. He thought it was an insult to New England tradition. The law was meant to be symbolic rather than actually enforced, but it passed, and technically it's still illegal. So if you're in Massachusetts and you want Manhattan clam chowder, you better keep quiet about it. In Louisiana, it's illegal to gargle in public. So if you need to freshen your breath, you better find a private bathroom. Gargling on the street is a no-go. This law was probably made to prevent people from spitting in public, which was a bigger problem back when spittoons were common. But instead of just banning spitting, they also banned gargling, because apparently gargling is disgusting and offensive. So if you're in Louisiana and you have a sore throat, you better gargle at home or risk getting arrested. Pennsylvania has a law that says you can't catch a fish with your mouth. I guess people were actually doing this, and someone decided it was unsportsmanlike. So now you have to use a fishing rod like everyone else. This is called noodling, and it's a real fishing technique where you use your hands or mouth to catch fish. It's popular in some southern states, but Pennsylvania decided it was too dangerous or too weird and banned it. So if you want to noodle for fish, you'll have to go to a different state. In Texas, it's illegal to sell your eye. Now, this seems like it should be illegal everywhere, but Texas felt the need to specifically write it into law. So if you're in Texas and someone offers you money for your eye, you better say no. This law exists because of organ trafficking. People were selling body parts on the black market, and the state needed to crack down on it. But the way the law is written is very specific. It says you can't sell your eye. Not your kidney, not your liver, just your eye. So technically selling other organs might be legal, but selling your eye definitely isn't. Let's talk about some marriage and relationship laws, because apparently the government has opinions about your love life. In Delaware, it's illegal to get married on a dare. So if your friend says, "I dare you to marry that person," and you do it, you've broken the law. The marriage is void, and you could face legal consequences. This law exists to prevent fraudulent marriages. If you marry someone as a joke or on a dare, it's not a real marriage and it shouldn't have legal standing. But the fact that this needed to be a law means people were actually doing this. There were enough dare marriages that Delaware had to step in and make it illegal. In Vermont, women must get written permission from their husbands to wear false teeth. This law is so outdated and sexist that it's almost funny. Almost. Mostly it's just weird that nobody bothered to remove it. This law probably dates back to a time when women couldn't make their own medical decisions. Everything had to be approved by their husbands. False teeth were considered a medical device, so women needed permission to get them. But this is the 21st century, and women don't need permission from anyone to get false teeth. Yet the law is still there. In South Carolina, if a man promises to marry a woman and then changes his mind, he can be jailed. So think very carefully before you propose in South Carolina, guys. There are legal consequences for cold feet. This law is based on something called breach of promise, which used to be a real legal concept. If a man proposed to a woman and then backed out, she could sue him for damages. The idea was that she had invested time and emotion into the relationship, and breaking the promise caused her harm. Some states took it even further and made it a criminal offense. South Carolina is one of them. So if you propose in South Carolina, you better be sure. In Utah, it's illegal to marry your cousin unless you're over 65. So apparently, once you hit retirement age, cousin marriage is fine. Before that, it's illegal. The logic here is baffling. Why does age matter? Is cousin marriage less weird when you're old? The actual reason is that older couples can't have children, so there's no risk of genetic problems. That's the state's justification. But it's still one of the weirdest laws out there. Like if you're 64 and you want to marry your cousin, you have to wait a year. But once you turn 65, go for it. Now let's get into some vehicle and transportation laws, because driving is apparently very complicated in America. In Alaska, it's illegal to tie your dog to the roof of your car. This seems reasonable, but the fact that it's a law means people were doing this. Someone was driving around with their dog strapped to the roof and lawmakers had to step in. This probably happened because of a famous story about a politician who tied his dog to the roof of his car during a road trip. The dog got sick, and there was a huge scandal, so Alaska decided to make it illegal to prevent future incidents. But the fact that this needed to be a law is depressing. Like, it should be common sense not to tie a dog to the roof of your car. In Montana, it's illegal to have a sheep in the cab of your truck without a chaperone. So if you're transporting a sheep, you can't just put it in the passenger seat. You need another person there to supervise. I guess sheep can't be trusted alone. This law probably exists because of ranchers transporting livestock. Maybe there were cases of sheep causing accidents by moving around in the truck. So the state decided that if you're going to have a sheep in the cab, you need someone to watch it. But the use of the word chaperone is hilarious. Like the sheep is on a date and needs supervision. In Nevada, it's illegal to drive a camel on the highway. So if you're thinking about using a camel as your primary mode of transportation, think again. Stick to cars. This law exists for the same reason as the Arizona camel hunting law. The US Army brought camels to the desert in the 1800s, and some of them ended up in Nevada. People tried using them for transportation, but they were slow and caused traffic problems. So Nevada banned camels from highways. Today there are no camels on Nevada highways, but the law is still there. Arkansas has a law that says the Arkansas River can rise no higher than the Main Street Bridge in Little Rock. So if the river decides to flood, it's technically breaking the law. I'm not sure how you enforce this. Do you arrest the river? This is one of those symbolic laws that was never meant to be taken literally. It was probably passed during a drought when lawmakers wanted to look like they were doing something about water levels. But the way it's written makes it sound like they actually think they can control nature. Sorry, Arkansas, but rivers don't follow laws. In New Mexico, it's illegal for idiots to vote. Now, this sounds terrible, but it's actually in their state constitution. Of course, they don't define what makes someone an idiot, which makes the whole law pretty much unenforceable. But it's still on the books. This law dates back to a time when literacy tests and other requirements were used to prevent certain people from voting. The word idiot was a legal term that referred to people with mental disabilities. So this law was meant to prevent people with disabilities from voting, which is obviously wrong. Today, everyone has the right to vote regardless of intelligence or disability, but the law was never officially removed from the Constitution. Let's talk about some school and education-related laws, because learning is apparently very regulated. In Oklahoma, it's illegal to read a comic book while operating a motor vehicle. So if you're stuck in traffic and you pull out a comic book, you're breaking the law. Regular books are probably fine, but comics are too distracting. This law was probably made during a time when distracted driving was becoming a bigger problem. But instead of just banning all reading while driving, they specifically mentioned comic books. Maybe a lawmaker's kid was reading comics in the car and crashed. Maybe there was a comic book epidemic. We'll never know, but the law is oddly specific. In Illinois, it's illegal to speak English. Wait, no, let me clarify. In Illinois, the official language is American, not English. So technically, speaking English is wrong. You should be speaking American. I don't know what the difference is, but apparently there is one. This law was probably meant as a symbolic gesture to distinguish American culture from British culture. But language doesn't work that way. American English and British English are both English. So this law is basically meaningless, but it's still on the books. In Ohio, it's illegal to get a fish drunk. So if you're thinking about throwing a party for your pet fish and serving alcohol, don't. You'll be arrested. I don't know why anyone would want to get a fish drunk, but apparently it was enough of a problem to make it illegal. Maybe there were bars that had fish tanks and people were pouring beer into them as a joke. Maybe there were scientific experiments gone wrong. Whatever the reason, Ohio decided that fish should not consume alcohol. Let's move on to some religious and Sunday laws, because apparently Sundays are sacred and you can't do much on them. In North Dakota, it's illegal to lie down and fall asleep with your shoes on. This is a very specific ban, and I have no idea what the reasoning is. Maybe someone thought it was disrespectful. Maybe it was a fire hazard. Who knows? This law might have been created during wartime when soldiers were expected to be ready to jump into action at any moment. Sleeping with your shoes on could be seen as a sign of readiness, but maybe North Dakota thought it was excessive. Or maybe it was just a really weird lawmaker with a shoe phobia. In Indiana, it's illegal to attend a public event or use public transport within 4 hours of eating garlic. So if you have Italian food for lunch, you better wait before you go out in public. Your breath is considered a public nuisance. This law probably dates back to a time when personal hygiene was a bigger concern. People didn't have mints or gum, so garlic breath was a serious problem. But instead of just encouraging people to brush their teeth, Indiana made it illegal to go out in public after eating garlic. Today, this law is obviously not enforced, but it's still technically illegal. In Idaho, you can't give your sweetheart a box of candy that weighs more than 50 pounds. So if you're really in love and you want to express it with chocolate, you better keep it under 50 pounds. Anything more is illegal. I have no idea why this law exists. Maybe someone gave their partner a giant box of candy and it caused a problem. Maybe it was seen as wasteful or excessive. Or maybe Idaho just really hates candy. Whatever the reason, if you're planning a grand romantic gesture in Idaho, make sure you weigh that chocolate first. Now let's get into some really random bans that don't fit into any category. In Arizona, it's illegal to refuse a glass of water. So if someone offers you water, you have to take it. Saying no is against the law. This actually makes some sense in a desert state where dehydration is a real concern, but it's still weird that it's a law. The idea is that in the hot Arizona desert, water is a precious resource, and refusing it when offered could be seen as wasteful or disrespectful. But forcing people to accept water seems like an overreach. What if you're not thirsty? What if you just drank a gallon of water 5 minutes ago? Too bad. In Arizona, you have to take that water. In Louisiana, you can't order pizza and then refuse to accept it when it arrives. So if you change your mind about that pizza, too bad. You're legally obligated to take it. I guess they had a problem with pizza prank calls. This law probably exists because of repeat offenders who were ordering pizzas and then not paying for them. It was costing pizza places money, so the state stepped in. But the way the law is written makes it sound like once you order pizza, you're committed. There's no backing out. You ordered it, you're eating it. In Washington, it's illegal to pretend your parents are rich. So if you're lying about your family's wealth, you're breaking the law. I guess they wanted to stop people from scamming others by claiming to come from money. This law probably dates back to a time when con artists would pretend to be wealthy to gain trust and then steal from people. By making it illegal to lie about your parents' wealth, Washington tried to prevent these scams. But the law is so specific that it raises questions. Can you lie about other things? Can you pretend you're rich if you don't mention your parents? The law doesn't say. In Colorado, it's illegal to lend your vacuum cleaner to your next-door neighbor. This is such a specific ban that there must be a story behind it. Maybe there was a vacuum lending dispute that got out of hand. Maybe someone borrowed a vacuum and never returned it, and it escalated to violence. Maybe vacuums were being used for illegal purposes. We'll never know, but the fact that Colorado felt the need to make this a law means something significant happened. And now, for all eternity, Coloradans cannot lend their vacuums to their next-door neighbors. They can lend them to other neighbors, just not the ones right next to them. In Missouri, it's illegal to drive with an uncaged bear. So if you have a pet bear, you better keep it in a cage while you're driving. A loose bear in the car is a no-go. This law makes sense from a safety perspective. A bear in a car is dangerous. But the fact that this needed to be a law means people were actually driving around with loose bears. Like someone thought, I'll just let my bear sit in the back seat. What could go wrong? Missouri said no, cage that bear. Let's talk about some workplace and business laws, because making money is apparently very regulated. In California, it's illegal to peel an orange in a hotel room. So if you're staying at a hotel and you want a healthy snack, you better peel that orange somewhere else. Maybe in the hallway. Maybe outside. Just not in your room. This law allegedly exists because of essential oils in orange peels that could damage hotel furniture. But that seems like a stretch. More likely, this law was created because hotel owners were tired of guests leaving orange peels everywhere and making a mess. So instead of just asking people to clean up after themselves, California made it illegal to peel oranges in hotel rooms. In Tennessee, it's illegal to sell hollow logs. So if you find a hollow log and think, I could make some money off this, think again, you'll be breaking the law. This law probably exists because hollow logs were used for illegal purposes. Maybe people were hiding contraband in them. Maybe they were being sold as building materials but were structurally unsound. Whatever the reason, Tennessee decided that hollow logs cannot be sold. Solid logs are fine, just not hollow ones. In West Virginia, it's illegal to whistle underwater. Now, I'm not sure this is even physically possible, but apparently someone tried it and lawmakers decided it needed to be banned. Maybe it was disrupting marine life. Maybe it was annoying other swimmers. Maybe someone almost drowned trying to whistle underwater. We'll never know. But West Virginia said no whistling underwater. In Minnesota, it's illegal to cross state lines with a duck on your head. So if you're planning a road trip and you want to bring your pet duck, don't put it on your head. Put it literally anywhere else. This law is so absurd that it almost seems fake, but it's real. The reason probably has to do with transportation of livestock and health regulations. Ducks can carry diseases, and having one on your head while crossing state lines could be a health hazard. But the specificity of the law makes it hilarious. In New Hampshire, you can't sell the clothes you're wearing to pay off a gambling debt. So if you lose all your money at the casino, you can't just strip down and hand over your shirt. You'll have to find another way to pay up. This law exists to prevent desperate gamblers from making terrible decisions. If you lose everything at the casino and you're in debt, selling the clothes off your back is not a solution. New Hampshire recognized this and made it illegal, but it's still funny that this needed to be a law. Now, here's where it gets really insane. In Kentucky, it's illegal to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket. Sound familiar? That's because this law exists in multiple states. Alabama has it, Georgia has it, Kentucky has it, and they all have the same weird horse theft explanation. But here's the thing, horse theft is already illegal. So why did multiple states feel the need to specifically ban ice cream in pockets? Because apparently lawmakers in the 1800s thought the best way to stop crime was to regulate dairy products. And that's the real issue here. These laws were made decades ago, sometimes over 100 years ago, for problems that don't exist anymore. But nobody bothers to remove them. They just sit there, collecting dust, waiting for someone to accidentally break them. And the craziest part? Some of these laws are still enforced. Not often, but it happens. People have been fined for violating these weird laws. Someone in Alabama actually got in trouble for the ice cream pocket thing. Someone in Oklahoma got fined for making faces at a dog. These aren't just funny stories. They're real laws with real consequences. The thing about these laws is that they show us how legal systems work. Once a law is on the books, it stays there unless someone specifically removes it. And removing laws is hard. It takes time, effort, and political will. Most lawmakers would rather focus on creating new laws than removing old ones, so these weird laws just accumulate over time, piling up like old newspapers in a hoarder's house. And the longer they sit there, the harder it becomes to get rid of them. Because at some point, they become part of local culture. They become things that people talk about and laugh about. They become tourist attractions. And nobody wants to be the person who removes the fun, weird law. But there's also a darker side to these laws. Some of them were created for discriminatory reasons. The voting law in New Mexico that mentions idiots was meant to prevent people with disabilities from voting. Some of the Sunday laws were meant to enforce religious beliefs on everyone. Some of the appearance laws were meant to control women. So while we laugh at these laws today, we should also remember that they came from a time when discrimination was legal and accepted. And the fact that they're still on the books, even if they're not enforced, is a reminder that we need to be vigilant about our laws and make sure they reflect our current values. So there you have it. 50 of the most insane, most ridiculous bans that exist in the United States. From wrestling bears to singing in swimsuits, from hollow logs to drunk fish, these laws prove that sometimes lawmakers have way too much time on their hands. The land of the free? Maybe. But also the land of the weird, the random, and the completely nonsensical. The next time someone tells you America is the most logical country in the world, just remind them that in some states you can't put a donkey in a bathtub. That should settle the argument pretty quickly. And here's the really funny part. Most people don't even know these laws exist. You could be breaking one right now and not even realize it. Maybe you're eating fried chicken with a fork. Maybe you're gargling in public. Maybe you have a sheep in your truck without a chaperone. You criminal. But seriously, these laws show us something important. They show us that laws can be made for the weirdest reasons, and once they're on the books, they stay there. Nobody wants to be the lawmaker who spends time removing the no fake mustaches in church law because they'd probably get laughed at. So these laws just stick around, getting weirder and weirder as time goes on. The United States has some of the most complex legal systems in the world, with federal laws, state laws, county laws, and city laws all stacking on top of each other. And somewhere in that mess, you get laws about pickle bounce tests and camel hunting bans. It's beautiful chaos. And you know what's really interesting? Other countries look at America and think we're already weird. They don't even know about these laws. Imagine trying to explain to someone from another country that in California, you need a hunting license to set a mousetrap. They'd think you're making it up. But nope, it's real. These laws also tell us about history. A lot of them were made during different times when society had different problems. The horse theft laws from the 1800s, the Sunday laws from when religion played a bigger role in daily life, the bear wrestling laws from when circuses and traveling shows were more common. Each weird law is a little time capsule showing us what people were worried about decades ago. But the question remains, why don't we get rid of them? Part of it is that it's just not a priority. Lawmakers have bigger things to worry about. Part of it is that removing old laws requires time and effort, and nobody wants to waste resources on something that seems harmless. And part of it is that these laws have become part of local culture. Some towns are proud of their weird laws. They put them on tourist brochures. They use them to attract visitors. Come to our town where you can't sing in a swimsuit. It's become a selling point. So while these laws might seem pointless, they actually serve a purpose. They remind us that laws are made by humans, and humans are weird. They make us laugh, they make us think, and they make us realize that maybe, just maybe, we should pay more attention to what our lawmakers are doing. Because if they had time to make it illegal to get a fish drunk, what else are they spending time on? Think about all the laws that get passed every single year. Federal laws, state laws, local ordinances, thousands of them. And while lawmakers are busy creating new regulations, these old weird laws just sit there, never getting addressed. It's like cleaning your house by constantly buying new stuff, but never throwing anything away. Eventually, you're living in a cluttered mess where you can't find anything useful because it's buried under decades of junk. And that's kind of what's happening with American law. The useful, important laws are there. Laws that protect people, keep society safe, ensure fairness. But they're buried under layers and layers of laws about ice cream cones and fake mustaches and donkeys in bathtubs. And when you have that much legal clutter, it makes everything more complicated. It makes it harder for people to know what's actually illegal. It makes it easier for someone to accidentally break a law they didn't even know existed. Imagine you're visiting Alabama and you're eating fried chicken at a restaurant. You pick up a fork because that's how you normally eat chicken. And technically, you're breaking the law. Now, nobody's going to arrest you for this. Nobody's enforcing this law, but it's still there. And the fact that it's still there means there's a tiny chance, however small, that it could be enforced. Maybe a police officer is having a bad day. Maybe a prosecutor wants to make an example of someone. Maybe someone just wants to be difficult. And suddenly, this ridiculous law that nobody takes seriously becomes a real problem. This actually happens with other obscure laws. There have been cases where prosecutors dig through old laws to find something to charge someone with when they can't make other charges stick. It's called selective enforcement, and it's a real issue. So these weird laws aren't just funny. They're also potentially dangerous because they give authorities more power to harass people if they want to.
But let's get back to the fun stuff. Because despite all the problems these laws create, they're still entertaining. They give us a glimpse into the minds of lawmakers from decades past, showing us what people used to worry about. Take the pickle-bouncing law in Connecticut. Someone, somewhere, sat down and decided the official test for a pickle's quality was whether it bounces. Not taste, not texture, but its ability to bounce. And somehow, people agreed. Or what about Oklahoma's law against making faces at dogs? Imagine the committee meetings for that one. At every step, someone could have said, "Wait, this is ridiculous," but nobody did. These laws reveal a very human desire to solve problems, even if the solutions are bizarre. A lawmaker sees something they think is an issue, like bear wrestling, and bam, they make a law. They feel like they've done their job without thinking if it will make sense 100 years from now. And that's how we get stuck with these legislative gems. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
That's why it's important to clean up these laws. Not because they're causing immediate harm, but because they make the entire legal system look bad. They make it seem like government is inefficient and out of touch. They give people ammunition to say, "See, this is why we can't trust lawmakers to make good decisions." But at the same time, these laws are part of American culture now. They're part of our collective identity. We're the country with the weird laws. We're the country where you can't put ice cream in your pocket, or make faces at dogs, or peel oranges in hotel rooms. And in a weird way, that's kind of charming. It shows that America is quirky and unpredictable. It shows that we don't take ourselves too seriously. It shows that we can laugh at our own absurdity. So maybe we should keep some of these laws. Not all of them, obviously. The discriminatory ones need to go. The ones that actually cause problems need to go. But the harmless, funny ones? Maybe we keep those. Maybe we embrace them as part of what makes America unique. Imagine if every weird law had a plaque explaining its history. In this town, you cannot sing in a swimsuit. This law was created in 1923 when traveling performers were disturbing hotel guests. While no longer enforced, it remains on the books as a reminder of our town's colorful history. That would be cool. That would turn these weird laws into teaching moments instead of just embarrassing relics. Or imagine if states had weird law museums where you could learn about all the strange regulations that used to exist. You could see exhibits about bear wrestling and camel hunting and pickle testing. It would be a fun way to learn about history while also acknowledging how ridiculous some of our laws have been. But until that happens, these laws will just continue to exist in legal limbo. Not enforced, but not removed. Not taken seriously, but still technically valid. Just sitting there, waiting for someone to stumble across them and say, "Wait, this is actually a law?" And that's the beauty of it. These laws surprise us. They make us laugh. They make us question everything we thought we knew about how government works. They remind us that lawmakers are just people. And people make weird decisions sometimes. So the next time you're in Alabama, don't put ice cream in your pocket. The next time you're in Oklahoma, don't make faces at dogs. The next time you're in Connecticut, make sure your pickles bounce, because technically it's the law. And even though nobody's going to arrest you for breaking these laws, they're still out there, just waiting to be discovered by the next generation of people who will look at them and say, "What were they thinking?" These laws are a gift to comedians, content creators, and anyone who loves absurdity. They're proof that truth is stranger than fiction. They're evidence that you can't make this stuff up because reality is already weird enough. And they're a reminder that America, for all its problems, is still a country that can laugh at itself. So yes, these laws are ridiculous. Yes, they should probably be removed. Yes, they make the legal system look silly, but they're also entertaining, educational, and uniquely American. They're part of our heritage, for better or worse. And as long as they're not hurting anyone, maybe we should just appreciate them for what they are. Weird little pieces of history that remind us not to take everything so seriously. Because at the end of the day, life is too short to worry about whether your pickle bounces or whether you're allowed to sing in a swimsuit. Just live your life, try not to wrestle any bears, and if someone tells you that you're breaking a weird law, just smile and move on. Chances are they're not going to enforce it anyway. And if they do, well, you'll have a great story to tell. Subscribe if you want to see more laws that make absolutely no sense.